Mind your language, especially if you're a parliamentarian. That's the big headline of the day that we will be breaking down for you tonight on the show. Words like ashamed, abused, criminal, eyewash, incompetent, lie, and many more will now be expunged if MPs utter them during speeches. Now, speeches in Parliament become a matter of record. Our members of Parliament are supposed to represent us. They are our voice. They are answerable on what they do in their constituencies and also have to hold the central government to account. But can they do that? Can they do their job with a restricted vocabulary? The updated list of words that are unparliamentary is being touted as censorship by the opposition. These words range from Snoopgate to Tanashah and Tanashahi to Magarmach ke Aasu. Believe me, I'm not making these up. Shakuni, fudge, eyewash, and the list goes on and on. But where has this come from? Is this the first of its kind? Well, absolutely not. The first booklet on restricted words was compiled in 1999. The Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla today has claimed that this is a tradition in Indian Parliament since 1954. The reason it has words that don't sound too bad by themselves is context. They've been put in because of cases in the past. The Lok Sabha Secretariat compiles the words based on rulings from previous presiding officers and past parliamentary debates. So it depends when these individual words have been used and in what context. Essentially, words that have been expunged in the past, usually on the request of various MPs during debates, make it to the list. So what happens if an MP uses any of these words? They're likely to get expunged from the record by the Speaker, but not more than that. The opposition today, though, is up in arms, saying this is an attack on speech of parliamentarians, while the Speaker himself came out in defense of the list. Listen in.
कोई अनएथिकल या ऐसा कुछ डेरोगेटरी स्पीच नहीं है, तो जो वर्ड्स अभी बीजेपी का खिलाफ एप्लीकेबल है, वही सारे जो वर्ड्स है ये भाजपा डर से उनका ऊपर लगाम लगाना चाहता है।
वो जो एग्जिस्टिंग अब हमारे पास किताब है शब्दों का, कैसा प्रयोग करना, क्या करना, उसको छोड़ के अगर ये करना चाहते हैं तो ये ठीक नहीं है। हम उठाएंगे, बार बार बोलते रहेंगे, वो बार बार निकालते रहेंगे, देखेंगे।
I think this gag order, this list, revised list of unparliamentary words itself is an act of that must be termed unparliamentary. It appears that the government of India is at some level fearful of the truth. They don't want to face the truth.
जब से भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सरकार केंद्र में आई है, ज्यादातर भारतीय जनता पार्टी के नेताओं की भाषा शैली खराब हुई है। मैं तो कहूंगा पार्लियामेंट के अंदर ही क्यों, पार्लियामेंट के बाहर भी ऐसी असंसदीय भाषा पे रोक लगनी चाहिए।
ये जो गला घोंटने की लोकतंत्र की आप पूरा देश जो देख रहे हैं, ये गुजरात में यही मोदी जी जब चीफ मिनिस्टर थे, मैं लीडर ऑफ ऑपोजिशन था, हम वहाँ के बिल्कुल विटनेस रहे हैं। इसी तरह से लोकतंत्र का गला घोंटा जाता था।
ये स्पष्ट मैं फिर करना चाहता हूं, किसी भी शब्दों को बैन नहीं किया गया है। जिन शब्दों को उस समय कार्रवाई के अंदर स्पंज किया गया है, चाहे लोकसभा हो, चाहे राज्यसभा हो, चाहे राज्य की विधानसभा हो, उसका संकलन जारी किया है।
Well, a number of questions that are raised. Is unparliamentary word list going to restrict MPs from doing their job, as opposition MPs are claiming? Is the claim of censorship valid? And when actions of MPs have often crossed the line, why all this ruckus over words? To speak more on this, I have a great panel with me, but I'm going to speak first with Saugata Roy, Lok Sabha MP and senior member of the TMC. Mr. Roy, thank you so much for joining us on Beyond the Headline. You're a veteran parliamentarian. Let me begin by getting your take on the ruckus that we're seeing today.
What I'll say is that this list of unparliamentary words have been published before also, since 1954 and again in 1990. But this is the first time such a list has been published where words which are used by the opposition to criticize the government have all been listed as unparliamentary. I find this strange that even a word like incompetent, now it is banned. Even a word like dictatorial has now been banned. Now, these are the words we use against Narendra Modi's government. And if you see the Hindi version, words like nikam, useless, that has also been banned. See, we cannot accuse the speaker of anything that's against parliamentary etiquette. And ultimately, it is up to the speaker to ban or expunge any word that is spoken in parliament. But I have never seen such a blatant effort to stifle the voice of the opposition.
Sir,
All the words that have been
Sir, they're saying what the speaker is saying today is that this is not just words that the opposition uses. This is what everyone uses, and it is not, aimed at stopping the voice of any one party. Plus, he goes on to say this is not a ban. This is not a ban. These are unparliamentary words. What do you say to that, sir? Because, like I mentioned in my introduction, you're a veteran parliamentarian and you're saying yourself that these lists have come out before and they have these words which seem innocuous, they seem innocent, but it's all about context.
Please realize that drama, tanashahi, jumla jibi, these are words that are used by the opposition to describe the government. I do not want to join issue with the speaker. He is the speaker. His words are final. But this should not have happened. The words which have been really left out are words which are used by the opposition to brand the government. Betrayed, hypocrisy, critical, drama, tanashahi, jumla jibi. How are these words unparliamentary? Why should these words be flagged and even ashamed, corrupt, snoopgate? We use this during the Pegasus thing, betrayed. All this, I find this ridiculous. I cannot speak against the speaker.
Yes.
But I have to say that we have to raise our voice.
Do you think this will restrict your ability as a parliamentarian to put forward your views?
Fortunately, in the English language, there are any number of synonyms for these words. We shall use them. But why should there be a fresh control on words used very commonly? You see, this has happened just after the Prime Minister has inaugurated a new symbol on top of the new Parliament building, where the lion is seen in an aggressive pose. It seems that the lion, that is Narendra Modi, is bearing its canines to really bite at democracy. This new dictionary is not acceptable to us. Within the parliament, we cannot protest, but outside we can always protest. This is a democracy still. We are being told that don't use any words like tanashahi, democracy, dictatorship, but we shall continue to oppose it. This is a gag.
Mr. Roy, the accusation against the opposition, and you talked about the emblem issue as well, is that you've run out of issues and are nitpicking, that the emblem wasn't very different and the unparliamentary list is a tradition. It has been going on. That's the accusation, that there's just no issues and you're trying to find fault where there is none. What would you say to that, sir?
Young lady, why should you cannot repeat whatever the ruling party is saying? They've not run out of issues. Unemployment is still an issue, price rise is still an issue, inflation is still an issue, Ukraine is still an issue. All the issues are there. But when we describe those issues, we have to call the government incompetent, but we shall not be allowed to.
What will you use instead, sir? You talked about synonyms in the English language. You're saying that this will not really make a difference?
We shall call them useless.
Okay.
We shall call them good for nothings.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Roy, thank you so much for your time. Saugata Roy, a veteran parliamentarian. And, you know, he talked about certain words which are big issues, inflation, unemployment. Well, none of them are in the list. So it can definitely be discussed. Charu, Pragya, national spokesperson, BJP, joining me on the show now. I'm speaking with Anshul Avijit, spokesperson, Congress. Welcome to both of you. Thank you so much for joining us on Beyond the Headlines. Charu, Pragya, just on the question of whether this is a gag order and the choice of words which typically the opposition party will be using. They have made it to the list. Now, things like corrupt, if you can't say that a government or a party or an issue is riddled with corruption, you cannot use the word drama, you cannot use the word incompetent. What can you say? You're on mute, ma'am. And we don't want to censor any of your words. We want to hear all of them. So please do unmute yourself.
Absolutely, no. My apologies. I was on mute while your previous interview was going on.
Yes.
So at the very onset, let me make one thing very clear. No words have been banned. And it's actually downright silly that the opposition is using the word banned everywhere, where our Honorable Speaker of the Lok Sabha has taken a press conference to clarify it. So nothing is banned. Absolutely nothing is banned. But you know, the word parliamentary language, unparliamentary language, it has been coined for a reason. And the reason is that words and phrases which are deemed inappropriate to be used on the floor of a house, in the assembly, in legislature, they should not be used because the whole country is watching you. Your entire state is watching you. Your voters are watching you. So it's as simple as that. Keep your language clean, be respectful, object, debate, discuss, all of that is welcome. But just keep your language clean. And
but what's wrong, Charu, what's wrong with hypocrisy? What's wrong with ashamed?
Let me just finish, Tamanna. Also, you know, this process of putting certain words in the category of unparliamentary words. So it's not started by us. It has been here since 1954. This list has been revised repeatedly. The booklet has been being published since 2010. So this is nothing new. I think the opposition really needs to do something constructive in this country instead of picking up on every normal thing that's been happening since decades now. Since decades, and you can say whatever you want in Parliament. It is just that when these words are written down, noted, it's going to be in a clean language.
Okay, one minute before I bring Anshu in. You're saying this has been going on since decades and it's not a ban. So 2 points which I want to ask you a counter question on. Now, questions like Jumla GV. It's definitely not on since decades. This is very recent, and this is also the creation of social media recently, and it's found its way into Parliament. Things like Snoopgate are very, very specific allegations to this particular government. So it's not on from decades. I don't know about drama and Magarmach ke Aasu, but these two words I can definitely point out to. And the second point that you made, that it is not a ban. That's what the speaker also said. The question of ban or not is what is the effect if you speak them. That what you've said will be expunged from the records. In the context of a parliamentarian, isn't that as good as a gag order? That what you've said will not go down the annals of history, it will not be on record?
So that just basically means, Tamanna, in the times to come, and it has always been the case, the parliamentarians need to be careful about the kind of words they utter. And do you remember the instance, I think it was 2 years ago, this entire ruckus broke out in Lok Sabha. A marshal was attacked by sitting MPs of the opposition. How shameful was that? The world was watching us. So it's as simple as this. Say what you want, say it in a clean manner, and that's about it.
Okay, no, so the point you're referring to is action versus words. Anshul,
let me also
okay, let Anshul come in. Let Anshul come in and then you can respond. Yes, Anshul, it's not new, it's not a ban, it's not really a big deal. Your response.
No, so the big question actually, what was earlier normalized and routinized, this has been going on since 1954. It's a part of parliamentary tradition. You just can't keep saying whatever you want. I mean, there is a certain particular kind of censor there. And the speaker has the discretion to expunge words. We respect the office of the speaker, and that's why he's certainly there to exercise that discretion. But why the brouhaha now? Why the hullabaloo? Why this big noise? You must ask yourself, because other times when similar exercise was done, the BJP, which is very, very active in the opposition when Dr. Manmohan Singh's government was in power, they used the choicest words to actually attack him, never raised an eyebrow. Why has this come up now? It's come up now because the words that are being used to expunge, which are being used in this manner, which have been highlighted, are the very words that have been used by the opposition to attack this government. And this government is completely intolerant of any kind of critique. I mean, it lives in a world of such, extreme paranoia. It has such a fragile self-image that it cannot bear any kind of critique. And that has been seen all around. So that is what is the qualitative change.
Anshul,
normalized,
no, so let's go into it in detail. What are you saying is the qualitative change? Because like Saugata Roy said, there are enough synonyms. If you want to make a point, you can make it. Just don't say specific things. And the reason these words are there is because they go into previous records of when they have been expunged.
Exactly what I'm trying to say. That is not the real story. Of course, our vocabulary is expansive enough to use a myriad other words to attack this government. We're not going to fall shy of that. The real story is the words that have been used, exactly those words which have been routinely used by the opposition to get back at this government. That is what is being used. I go by one by one. Eyewash, hypocrisy, incompetent rather, mislead, betrayed, corruption, ashamed. Some of them you mentioned all along. And Jumla GV is a word, a kind
Charu,
of a newfangled word that has come out.
Charu, how can a parliamentarian not be allowed to use the word incompetent? If you're in opposition and you want to say the government is incompetent, why can't you say it's incompetent?
So Tamanna, first of all, let's make one thing very clear, and it's for Anshul too as well as the viewers. This list is for everyone, and the maximum number of MPs belong to the BJP, Anshul. So it applies to every single MP in the ruling party or otherwise. So everybody will have to come up with a better and alternative vocabulary if certain words are deemed unfit. And as for sensationalism, I think the parliament is a serious place. A little bit of humor here and there is fine, but it's not a place where you love people and you insult them. Make your point, do it in a constructive manner, do it in a logical manner, and be done with it. In fact, I applaud our speaker. He's one of the best speakers our country has had in the longest time, and I've been saying this.
No, so I mean,
I'm not going to say yeah.
No. So I want to take forward the point Charu is saying, Anshul. So now BJP MPs cannot say previous governments were incompetent. Isn't that great?
Exactly.
You can no longer say UPA was incompetent.
So tell me, Tamanna, more than 300 plus MPs belong to NDA. And they have no problem with this. Why is this that a handful of MPs...
No, but Charu, the voice of the opposition in a democracy matters. No, it's because the voice of an opposition in a democracy matters. And Parliament is a platform. We said this in our opening explainer as well. Parliament is a platform for all parties, for all MPs to put forward the voice of their constituents and to question who's in power. Anshul.
I think we're missing the real story. Hang on. The moot point in the real story we are missing. I just wonder why there was no noise created when similar changes, you call it being expunged or not on record, similar words were at that time expunged during the list that came out during the UPA years. Why didn't the BJP object to them? Because it was a normal, routinized exercise. Why does the opposition feel that at the moment the entire democracy is under siege, that they think that the opposition has been completely ignored, that none of the bills are going to the standing committees of the House, that the opposition voice has been completely throttled, as Mr. Saugata Roy pointed out, as there's been some sort of surveillance state that is going on. Snoopgate is a word that's being used. Now it's a new word that's being used. I mean, it comes...
Anshul, I'm seeing the list from previous years. In 2012, there was chori, there was jhoot, there was shame. All of these were put on the list. It's a different matter that it didn't really make a difference. Everyone has used them.
No. Tamanna,
one minute, let him complete. Charu, 1 minute. 1 minute, Charu, let him complete.
Charu has said, let me complete my point. There is a context of what is happening right now. Let me use this word expunge as a metaphor going on in our history. You know, history is being expunged. There's dehistoricization of our past, renaming of streets, you know, the national symbol, as pointed out again, you know, these vicious lines emerging from the stonework as if about
Anshul,
to jump on.
let's stick to what we're talking about. I mean,
1 minute.
I think, don't you think that you're turning it into a larger theme?
Can I
1 minute.
Can I just come in?
Yeah, okay.
Yes. The larger problem.
1 minute. 1 minute. Charu, I'll come to you. Give me a second. Charu, I'll come to you. Give me a second. Sorry, Anshul, I'm saying that this is the thing. When the BJP comes and says, and the government comes and says that you've run out of issues. Now, you are equating words in a parliamentary list with the baring of teeth on a national emblem, with, you know, whatever is happening in history books. Are you able to cogently make your point, words or no words?
No, hang on a minute. You're missing the point. That is the real story, that democracy is under siege from all sides. And this is a part of that story. That is the point.
Charu, Pragya, your response to that. Anshul says there's a larger story where you want to change history, and this is part of it. Charu, now Anshul, now you listen to Charu. Now you listen to Charu. Yes, Charu.
Anshul, tongue in cheek, I just wanted to say this. You know, life has become easier now. Rather than every single road being called Rajiv Gandhi Road and Indira Gandhi Road, at least we've got some originality there, okay? But that being said, the question here is these words have been called unparliamentary since the very beginning, even in UPA times, Anshul. And apart from that, a lot of these words are called unparliamentary, even in other parts of the world, in other parliaments of the world. So the point is, and the larger point is, these words are not banned. You have to remember that. Say them, use them judiciously, if you please. Come up with a better vocabulary. Convey your message in a cleaner manner. What is so difficult to understand about that? And I want to say this again. Our speaker was absolutely right in saying one thing. Nothing has been banned. You have free speech. You say what you please. At the end of the day, do you want some
but Charu, again, I want to come back to that question of ban.
I don't understand what is unparliamentary about eyewash, about hypocrisy, about I mean, again and again, we're reading out the same words again. No, that's not the point. I agree with Charu. I have to concede. Just a minute.
All right.
I agree with Charu.
No. Khoon se kheti, Vinash Purush is not in the parliaments of the world. This is a very Indian thing, Tanashahi. The concern, Charu, the concern that Anshul is trying to talk about, and we've heard a litany of opposition leaders, is that these are hand-picked words which they use specifically to describe this government, which this government perhaps doesn't like, and that's why it's on this list. That's the clear accusation. What is your specific response to that?
So, first of all, I made it very clear, Tamanna, that either the opposition expects to be in the opposition forever, or you come up with a non-sensational, clean way of criticizing the Prime Minister. There's no problem in that.
Is that a nice word? I'll use it repeatedly.
1 minute. No overlaps. No overlaps, please, Anshul. No overlaps.
Let me be very fair. Let me be very fair and say, if one GV is not to be uttered, the other one will also not be uttered. No, why don't you realize this list remains the same?
So it's a Newtonian thing, right? You say one thing and they say the other thing.
No.
Some of these words which have been around, jhoot, for example, all of them have been used time and again. Okay, I'm going to end this here. Charu, Pragya, Anshul, Avijit, I'm going to end this here. I want to thank you for joining us. But, you know, in this day and age of so many outlets for your speech, doesn't action really speak louder than words? At the end of the day, action speaks louder than words. Parliamentarians have the job of passing laws that help the people of this country. They have the job of being the voice of their constituents, and they have the job of, you know, passing laws with decorum. and avoiding all of that ruckus. Let's see them doing that no matter what language is used.